Hey y'all, welcome back, and welcome to a currently reading clear out vlog. My goal for November is to finish things that I've started because I am notoriously bad about not doing that, at least in terms of my reading. I frequently will start projects and not finish them, or I'll make a priority list and never finish it, and my currently reading is terrible. It's currently got 10 books in it. It's definitely not the highest it's ever been, but it's rare for it to go below 10 books or stay below 10 books, and I really want to have a clean slate for next year and kind of going into December. Plus, I'm coming out of a pretty good reading month in October, and I'd like to keep that momentum, and I think that clearing out my currently reading and having less of that kind of mental looming list is going to help me maintain that momentum and keep reading a lot through the rest of the year and hopefully into 2025. So that's where we're going to be starting for the month, and I'm pretty excited for it. There's some books here that I was really enjoying when I was reading them, and just things came up that made me have to set them down. Sometimes it was school, sometimes it was a different project I was working on, but all of these are ones that I'm interested to get back to and finish. So I think it's going to be a really good vlog, and I feel like the best place to start is just to run through the list and let you know which ones I definitely won't be reading and the ones that I'm hoping to prioritize. So starting from the oldest book and moving towards the newest, we have Finlay Donovan is Killin' It by Elle Cosimano, The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling, The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, The Decagon House Murders by Yukito Ayatsuji, Critical Hits, edited by J. Robert Lennon and Carmen Maria Machado, Family Family by Laurie Frankel, I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, Uncanny by Junji Ito, In the Shadow of the Ship by Alia de Bedard, and On Writing Well by William Zinsser. There's two that I'm not going to be reading for this video, and that's going to be On Writing Well and Critical Hits. I'm reading the first one of those for work at the moment, and the other one is an essay collection, and I really want to give myself more time to digest those essays. So those are the only two that I'm not planning to read for this video. And then in terms of prioritization, I know that I'm probably going to read In the Shadow of the Ship and Family Family fairly soon. In the Shadow of the Ship is a novella, and it's only like, I think it's not even 100 pages long, and I've read to like page 20 or 30. And then Family Family, I just got the audiobook back. I think I have like 3.5 hours of that left, and this is like the fourth time I've checked the book out from the library, so I feel like I really need to just go ahead and listen to it this time. So I think that those may get read pretty early. And then beyond that, I really want to prioritize those older books. So Finlay Donovan is Killin' It, The Ex-Hex, The Writing Retreat, and The Decagon House Murders. I think 3 of those, everything but Finlay Donovan, I'm like 100 to 150 pages from the end. So they should go fairly quickly. I should be able to clear those out fairly rapid fire, I think, if I put the time into it. I just need to actually like get back to them, and I definitely want to do that before the details of them fade from my memory too much for me to continue from where I was at. So yeah, that is pretty much the goal for this week. I'm going to give myself until the 8th to do this. This is currently the 1st, it's a Friday, and I'm going to read until next Friday. Probably next Friday early evening, so I have a little bit of time to edit, and we'll just see how many of these I can get finished in that time. So that's pretty much my goal for this week. The other thing I need to do this week, though, that is not specifically currently reading related, is I need to go to Barnes & Noble and make a return, because I pre-ordered Blood Over Brighthaven and they sent me 2 copies. I was very confused because I was looking at my like informed delivery thing, and it was like, your package is out for delivery. I was like, great, yes, I was waiting for that. And then there were 2 Barnes & Noble packages out for delivery, and I was like, well, I've only ordered 1 book. So I talked to my mom, and she was like, well, I haven't ordered anything. And so then I was very confused. And then it just turned out that they shipped me 2 copies of the same book, and they charged me for 1. So I just need to take one of them back and see if they will just like put it back on the shelves instead of me having 2 of them, because I really don't need 2 copies of this book. That said, I did make the mistake of reading just like chapter 1, just to get a taste of the writing, because I haven't read anything from this author before, and it made me sob at my desk yesterday. So a good time was had, obviously, but I'm gonna love this book, I'm pretty sure. I just don't need to have 2 copies of it. So that's kind of the other thing I've got going on. I'm gonna try and do that either today or tomorrow, just to get that done. I don't want to leave it too late and miss like a return window or anything. So yeah, that is the plan for the week. I hope you'll enjoy this video. I hope you'll join me for this journey, and I'm gonna go get started. Quick non-reading update, because I got some book mail, but I won a contest last month that was run by a creator I follow on Patreon, and I got a choice of either Henry V by Dan Jones or The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne as my like winnings for that, and I chose Henry V because I have not actually started the Bloodsworn Saga yet. But this sounds super interesting. It is, as you might guess, a book about Henry V. It's nonfiction, and it's very early 15th century history, which is an era I'm pretty interested in, so I'm excited to give this a try and start my history reading journey, because I just haven't read that much history, but it's something I want to try and read more of. So I think this is gonna be really cool. There's also a signed copy, although I can't actually show it to you because I'm using both hands, one for the camera. But I got that, and then also he sent a bookmark that his wife had made. This was Michael Kist. I can't remember if I said that already. That was the creator that was running the contest. I will link his channel in the description below. But yeah, his Patreon is The Sickos, so that's why that says that. It's adorable, I love it, and I'm so excited to read this book. So I just had to check in because I was really excited about that. I was in a meeting and my doorbell went off and it was the UPS man. I was just like, yes. So, very excited, and that's it. That's the update. I completely forgot to read it all yesterday evening, but I am now halfway through In the Shadow of the Ship. Actually, I'm further than that. I think I'm on almost page 70, and it's okay, I'm on page 63 or 62, and it's a like 90 something page book, so I should be able to finish this one pretty quickly. Although I am going to take this afternoon as a little break because I'm going to play some Silent Hill with my friends. Haven't gotten to do that in a little while, so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. But yeah, I did get halfway through that, and I also managed to return that extra copy of Blood Over Brighthaven. I created exciting new problems for the poor Barnes & Noble workers because I went in and told them what had happened, and it took 3 different employees to figure out how to handle it, because they were like, normally people get charged twice when they get shipped 2 copies, and since I didn't get charged twice, they weren't sure how to handle it, but they did seem to figure it out because they ran it as a normal return. And then this morning I checked and that like refund is gone. So I think they were able to like cancel the actual like money portion of the refund, which is perfect because that means I have paid for the 1 copy that I actually wanted. So that totally worked out. I'm really glad. And now I'm enjoying this. Side note, I said I got halfway. I didn't say what I'm thinking of it. It's not so far my favorite thing I've read from Elliot Davidard. That said, I'm getting into the latter half and I'm finding it a lot more engaging. I think the first half, I just don't have enough context for the first few sections to really get what's going on, but now that I'm further in and we're kind of getting into like what is the mystery, how are we going to solve this, where you kind of have a sense of the threat and there's more going on, I've got a better sense of where the story is going. So I'm having a better time the last half, and I am really enjoying it, and I'm curious to see how it's all going to turn out. It's kind of a ghost story almost, but it's about Huyen, who left this mine ship called the Nightjar when she was a child. Not really a child entirely, she's like 16 or something, but the night ship has been running from the Empire for some number of years, like 90 or 100 years, and takes tribute of little children who disappear, and no one knows what happens to those children. But when she was a child, Huyen's friends disappeared, and now several years later she's a magistrate and she has to go back to the ship for a funeral, and so creepy things are happening. I'm excited to see how it's going to turn out. So yeah, having a good time there. And I think I have figured out the order I want to read everything in. So let me see if I can share this to you. I made a little stack on my desk. This is my priority order. I want to try and get these older books done first. So I think I'm going to aim for reading Decagon House Murders first, because that's the one I'm kind of least excited for. Come on, focus on the stack. There we go. This is the one I'm least excited for, and I'd like to go ahead and get it cleared out and kind of out of the way, and the rest of these I think are going to be great. So this is the plan at the moment. However, as I said, I am going to play Silent Hill for a little bit with my friends. I'm trying to finish it because it's just long enough that I feel like it's a game that if I don't finish it fairly soon, it's just going to languish. Like something else is going to come up, I'm not going to remember to come back to it, and then it's going to be a year from now and I won't have finished it. And I say that because it's about the same length or slightly shorter than, I think, Resident Evil 4, which I haven't finished and started last year at Halloween, and then the Dead Space remake, which I started the year before that and still haven't finished. So yeah, I really want to get this one done. I do want to go back to those 2 games. Side note, I do want to finish them at some point, but I need to go ahead and finish it. So we're gonna play some of that this afternoon, and then after that my mom and I are going to visit with my aunt and uncle. We're gonna meet them halfway between their house and ours, and we're gonna get some dinner and then probably go play some pool, because in the city where we usually meet up there is a pool hall. So gonna go do that. My uncle loves playing pool. I always have a good time, and then Mom and Aunt Donna usually just chat. So it'll be a good evening, and then probably when we get home is when I'll sit down and finish this. So that's the plan. Got back from visiting family earlier after playing some pool, having a good dinner. It was a really nice time. It was good to see them again, and it's been a while since I've seen them actually. We normally see them about like once a month. We'll meet kind of in the middle and do something, usually get dinner and play pool, but it's been a while. I think the last time I saw them was in like August, because I know my mom went and visited with them in September, and that's the last time that either of us has seen them. But I wasn't with her on that September trip. Also, if you hear crinkling in the background, Elwood is being a crime cat. He's currently hanging out behind my TV. There's like a little piece of paper I didn't realize was back there, like some crinkly packing brown paper, and he's playing with that back there. So if you hear crinkling, it's Elwood. But yeah, so we had a nice time. Got to visit with them for a little bit, played some pool with my uncle. Just overall, great time. It's been a while. And then came home, and now I have finished In the Shadow of the Ship. And I still think this is not my favorite thing I've read from Ali Davidard, and definitely not my favorite thing I've read even in this particular universe. This is the Zuya Universe series. I did like it. I think it's just a little bit too short. It's about 95 or 96 pages, and I think we're missing some context, and there's just not enough space for everything to get kind of fully developed and fleshed out in a way that would have made it, I think, more impactful, because there was quite a bit of time at the beginning of it where I was just like, I don't have a sense of what's going on. And then we kind of got further in, I started to learn a little bit more. I was like, okay, I'm getting it. And then it felt like we had a really kind of rushed romance in the middle of it, and the ending feels a little anticlimactic given all of the like tension and dread that's building in the first part of it. So I think I'm gonna give it like 3.5 stars. I still enjoyed it. It's just definitely not my favorite thing from this author. And I think there are other books in this particular series that are better. I think this is the only one that's horror though. So if you're like interested in sci-fi horror, maybe this is a good entry point for the Zuya Universe books. But yeah, just not my favorite one. Still pretty good. Still had a good time reading it. So I think next I might try to finish the Decagon House Murders. Don't hold me to that, because I often change my mind, but I'm thinking that's maybe going to be my next one. I'm probably going to try and read some of that tomorrow. However, tomorrow before I do that, I have some work I have to do. I have to log into my work computer and do some studying for a certification exam I need to take in the next couple of months. And I also have a piece of writing I need to work on, because I was going to give it to my supervisor on a Friday, and then I had my one-on-one with her and we talked about it, and she gave me some more sources to look at, and there were a few additional pieces I wanted to add, so we adjusted the deadline to Monday. But I want to give myself a little bit of time to work on it on Sunday, because I have some other stuff I also need to do Monday, and I don't want to be too rushed next week. I already have a lot going on, so I'm kind of trying to make my week a little less overwhelming overall. I'm gonna have a lot to get done in the next couple of weeks, so it's gonna be a rough couple of weeks, but like I'll get through it. I'll get there. It's just gonna be a hard couple of weeks. So I think it's gonna be a good time for me to be reading some of my currently reading stuff, because there's a lot of stuff where I'm close enough to the end I'll be finishing books fairly regularly, and it's not quite as big a reading commitment if I've only got like 100 to 150 pages left. For reasons I cannot explain, I didn't go to bed as I said I was going to do. I didn't prepare for the things I need to get done tomorrow. I stayed up and I finished the Decagon House Murders. I can't explain this decision. I don't know why I've done this. However, I am done with this book now, and I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I didn't really care for this one, and I'm really bummed about that, because I was really excited for it. I thought it sounded really cool. This book follows a group of students who all travel to this island where 6 months previously a series of killings happened. Not even really a series of killings, like several people were killed all at once, and then the house on the island burned down, and it being the home of like this famous architect, and there's like a gardener who went missing. And so all of that happened 6 months ago, and now the students who are members of a mystery club at a local university are going to the island just kind of to have a trip together. It's kind of an unofficial mystery club trip, and they're kind of curious about the incident that happened there, and they're thinking like it's just gonna be a good time. They're gonna go be friends, have a fun time kind of talking about the cold case and enjoying like being away from everything for a little bit. Except that there is a character, an unnamed character at the start, but obviously we will eventually find out who it wants revenge against this group of students, and they start getting killed off one by one. It is a retelling of And Then There Were None, or a kind of version of And Then There Were None, but I thought that sounded super interesting, and I don't love And Then There Were None. It's actually one of my least favorite Agatha Christie's I've read, which I know is an unpopular opinion, and unfortunately for me it also didn't work for me here for different reasons. So I think that like the general premise is still very interesting, but I still didn't love the execution of it here. I had several issues with this book, but I want to start with the things that I did enjoy because I did like a few pieces of this. One thing being that and I think the biggest thing being that there is a really good twist near the end where I was completely caught off guard. I really like the reveal of who's the culprit because it's this like very subtle moment that tells you who actually did everything. And I really enjoyed the way that that was done. And I also really like that we actually have two kind of timelines going on here. We have the people on the island, and at the same time there's a group of people on the mainland who are also investigating the incident of 6 months ago for a specific reason I won't get into because that would be spoilers, but there's a group of people who gets together on the mainland who are like, they have no way of contacting the people on the island, but they have reason to suspect that there might be something more to investigate in regard to that previous case, and so they start working on that, and I found that to be the most interesting piece of this story. I really enjoyed following that investigation, and there's some odd characters there. In particular, we get a character named Shimada who is a kind of almost like Sherlock Holmes-esque figure, but like not quite. He's clearly like good at putting pieces together. He's curious about the case. He makes me think of like a Sherlock Holmes or a Poirot, but not quite as what's the word I want? Those are very like eccentric characters, and I don't think Shimada is quite as eccentric as they are. But he has that same kind of flavor of detective about him. So I really liked those elements of it, and I found that those were fun to read. The things that I had issues with were more numerous. First of all, and I think just the most basic, is that the writing didn't work for me. It feels a little clunky and stiff, and people in here don't talk the way I think people actually speak. So I didn't really care for the writing, so that was a hard hurdle for me to get over. And on top of that, I didn't like any of the characters except for the ones on the mainland. I felt like the characters involved in the events on the island were really bland, and like the one or two that weren't totally bland, I didn't care for their characterization. One of them is just kind of like generic egotistic jerk. I don't think he's really meant to be an asshole, but he comes across as one. And then the two women are very like cardboard cutout feeling. There's two women in the group, and you have like the pretty confident one and the short chubby self-aware, self-conscious one, and like that's it, that's their personalities. And I did like that there was a little bit of a friendship that seemed to be emerging between them, but it just didn't go anywhere, and it just was like, okay, what was the point of that? So I wanted more from all of these characters because I think they could have been interesting, but they were just bland and uninteresting. I had trouble telling apart the different characters. I couldn't tell who was who. They all also had like the same voice, so figuring out who was speaking most of the time was quite difficult, except for, again, the kind of jerk character Ellery, and then I think Agatha was fairly easy to identify, but I just didn't care for any of the characters. This was also really repetitive, and I didn't like the way that they were investigating this. The people on the island. People on the mainland, great. Love their investigation. People on the island kind of suck. There's a lot of repetition of characters like coming to a conclusion and then repeating that conclusion before they can move on to the next point. So they'll be like, oh yes, so there were these number of footprints. So anyway, there were these number of footprints and that means thing. And it just was like, it kept repeating itself over and over and over again. I was like, yes, I've got it. Let's move on to the next point instead of telling me that what I were. I'm so ranting I can't even get my words together. Let's move on to the next point instead of telling me what you've just told me. There were also like smaller bits of repetition where like a character is like, ah, this is Inspector Shimada Osamu, and then like 2 seconds later to the same group of people he's like, hi, I'm Inspector Shimada, and he was there, he was introduced to them. So it's weird that he does it again. There's just lots of like little bits of repetition that were really frustrating, where it was like, yes, let's get to the point, let's move on, let's keep moving, let's not keep repeating ourselves. And it just kept repeating itself. And then on top of that, a lot of the investigation on the island was like, they would see a thing, and instead of like looking further into that thing, they would go sit around a table and they'd talk about it, and they'd talk theories, and they'd just throw out a bunch of stuff that you know is not correct. And then they'd be like, oh well, we can't figure it out for now, let's all go to bed. And then something else would happen and they'd like look at a thing, and then they'd go sit around the table and they'd talk about theories, all of which are pretty obviously incorrect, and then they would go, oh well, we can't do anything about this. And it just kept happening over and over. And especially at the end, there was this bit where they found footprints, and instead of following the footprints, they're like, quick, memorize where the footprints were, and then they go back to the table to draw a map of the footprints, and it just was driving me nuts. I just did not enjoy the way that they were investigating. I felt like the pieces on the island just did not work very well, and overall it was really disappointing. I did like a few elements, but this just didn't work for me at all. Now I do have to stop talking. My battery is flashing at me and it's probably going to die on me in a moment, so I'm going to stop ranting and actually go to bed. But that is 2 books off my currently reading, so that feels pretty good despite my disappointment in this book overall. Real quick, I'm using my last bit of battery to mention, because I almost forgot to say, the mystery is super over convoluted. A bunch of the murders are like, the only way that works is just by complete luck that some of these murders actually occurred, and it's just massively over convoluted, and it's literally so convoluted that it results in an almost 30-page description of every murder, explaining how the killer managed the whole thing at the end of the book. Almost 30 pages of explanation. That's a no for me. Okay, now I'm actually gonna go sleep. So, I did not get to read anything yesterday. I ended up working at like a 12.5-hour day trying desperately to get a time-sensitive story written, by which I mean it was 2 stories that were like related, and I needed to get both of them done yesterday. So I worked a very long day yesterday, but I have decided that the next thing I'm gonna pick up is Finlay Donovan, because this is the oldest book on my currently reading at the moment, and it's also, of the older books that I'm hoping to prioritize, it's the one I have the most pages left in. I'm like 130-ish pages in. I did read a little bit more earlier, so I think I was around the 120 page mark. Read a little bit earlier, 130 pages now, and I really would like to get this one cleared off of my currently reading, because it is the oldest one. I started it in April of 2023, and I remember really enjoying it. It's got this kind of silliness to it that I was finding very appealing, but also when I last picked it up, I got to a really good twist that I really liked. I saw it coming, and I still loved it, so I'm really interested to see what the story is going to go, and I thought this would be a fun place to go next with this video. So this is the next book I'm gonna try and finish, and I've got a couple of hours now before I have to get a haircut. So I'm gonna try and read a little bit now. We are gonna go do some grocery shopping right before the haircut, so don't have a full like 2 hours, but I'm gonna get a little bit of reading done now, and then because it's currently election day, I'm going to be spending most of my later part of my evening playing Phasmophobia with my partner. This was our prearranged plan to avoid looking at headlines or election results or anything, because obviously we're not gonna actually have results tonight, probably. So we both are, you know, anxious about it. We didn't want to have to think about it. So we're going to play some Phasmo, because ghosts are less scary than anything else going on in this country right now. So there is that. But yeah, gonna go with Finlay Donovan next. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time being back in it. And one of the things that I'm finding that I really appreciate about this book is that it's very memorable. I think the characters are really interesting, and the events that happen in it are pretty memorable, because again, I started this in 2023. Early 2023. It's now almost the end of 2024, and I was able to dive straight back into this with no problem whatsoever. I started reading and was like, okay, yep, I know exactly where I am, I know who these people are, I know what's going on, and I can just kind of continue on from here. So I really appreciate that about this book, and I'm looking forward to finding out how the mystery is going to wrap up, because it's got some interesting twists in it so far. Today is a hard day. I'm gonna set this video aside for a little while. I need to take some time for me and probably do some comfort reading and see where we go from here. I'll come back to this probably later in the month when I kind of got my shit together, you know? But I want to be candid, because I think a lot of people are feeling the way that I'm feeling right now. I think a lot of us are struggling today, and we're just going to have to feel those feelings before we can start moving forward and figuring out what we need to do next. So So, it's been a while since I updated this vlog. I believe I set this down on November 6th for obvious reasons, and it's now November 20th. It's been most of the month. However, although I've stopped working on the vlog actively, I have still been reading in the background, so I have quite a few updates for you from the last couple of weeks. The first update is actually progress in the wrong direction though, because I actually added books to my currently reading. I've added 3. I started reading Guards Guards by Terry Pratchett and Henry V by Dan Jones, which I made a video about this, but these were both like emotional stress reading reactions to some certain current events, and I'll link that video in case you want to go see my thoughts on that and why I was picking these books up. But I started those for that reason. I don't think I'm going to manage to finish them in this vlog. I think these are going to get carried over into December, but that's okay. I'm kind of enjoying reading them slowly. But the last one that I added was The No Mask Murder by Akamitsu Takagi, and translated by Jesse Kirkwood, and I'm definitely planning to finish this one in this video because this is like 200 pages. I'm 70 pages in, and I'm having a great time. Beyond that though, I did also remove some things, some of the older things from my currently reading. First of all, I decided to DNF The Ex-Hex. I finally decided this is just not for me. I didn't DNF this because I wasn't enjoying it. I was liking it just fine, but my problem was that I was realizing it was just going to be a 3-star for me. It wasn't going to be anything better than that. I wasn't convinced of the stakes, and while I really liked the characters and I liked the progression of their romance, I didn't care about the plot, so it wasn't quite enough to like pull me through the story. And I would have preferred that either the curse plot be stronger and have higher stakes, or just not have been there at all. It's really just a mechanism to pull these two characters together, which I think could have been achieved even without the curse. I did really like the way that the book was dealing with these two characters having had a past relationship, because it's a second chance romance, and I think that the way it was dealing with those emotions for both of them was really interesting. And yeah, like there were elements I really liked. It just was not going to be more than a 3-star for me, and this was really an experiment for me to see if I would like a contemporary romance with some fantasy elements, because I know that I like fantasy with some romance elements, and the experiment tells me that no, that's just not for me. So I was happy to go ahead and pass this book on to hopefully another reader who will love it. I donated this one to my local bookstore. Then after DNFing The Ex-Hex, I ended up finishing The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. This is a very weird book, but the one thing I have to give it is that it is very memorable. I started this one in February, and I dove right back in, and I had no trouble whatsoever remembering where I was, who the characters were, what was happening. It was really easy to just get right back into the story. That said, it is a deeply weird book. I think the pacing is quite strange, and it escalates very quickly. The first half of this book is really focused on the relationships between these people who are on this writing retreat and the very weird behaviors of everyone. It's just like a bunch of people stuck in a building being weird at each other for like the first half. And then shortly after the halfway point, we get the beginning of the actual like mystery thriller element of the story. And then it just escalates wildly pretty much immediately. We don't have a whole lot of time where there's like a lot of investigation of this like one mystery element, because it just goes completely off the rails right afterwards. However, it totally commits to that unhingedness, and I really appreciated that about it, and it was committed enough to its own bit that I was able to just kind of like accept it and go along for the ride, and I'm glad that I did, because I did have a lot of fun reading this one. It's pretty intense in some points, and I think some of the story goes places I totally didn't expect. Some bits of it are a little bit convoluted, but again, it really commits to that point. It's not trying to like take itself that seriously, and I really enjoyed the direction that it went, just because it was a little over the top, but it was like clearly intentional, and I liked the way that the story wrapped up and the fact that we got to see a little bit of the characters in the aftermath of these events as well. So I like having that kind of closure on like where the character is going next. So yeah, I had a really good time with this. I gave it 4 stars, and I will definitely be reading more from Julia Bartz if she writes more. So that was a success, and then after that I haven't finished anything else, but I have made some progress in Uncanny by Junji Ito. So yet another update for you. I am at like the halfway point here. I think I'm like right at the halfway point, and I'm in the middle of chapter 3. So far, having a great time. Every new fact that I learn about Junji Ito is just delightful. He draws horrible, horrible things, and he is just such a normal dude, and I really like that dichotomy. It's really interesting to read about. I do think that, like, chapter 1 is not structured quite as well as chapter 2. Chapter 1 is really focused on his childhood and on the early media that he read and watched that influenced him, and some of the other hobbies that he had that shaped, like, the time that he had to be interested in manga. So he was also, like, into roller derby and table tennis. So he has all these other things going on too. And it talks a little bit about his family as well. But the vast majority of chapter 1 is focused specifically on the media that he enjoyed. So there's lots of explanations of specific TV shows, or even specific episodes in TV shows, or specific movies, or specific manga and specific short stories and books that he read. So it spends a lot of time explaining plots and talking about what he appreciated about them as a child, and then the things that he grew to appreciate them as he got older and became interested in pursuing manga as a career for himself. So I think there are some really interesting elements there, but it felt a little disjointed because it kept kind of jumping back and forth in time, and it didn't have like a clear through line. It was just jumping back and forth between like, okay, I was interested in this manga for these reasons, and I was interested in this TV show for these reasons. And it also does this weird thing where, like, it will explain things to you that I was like, I don't really need an explanation of how stop motion animation is created, but then it would mention, like, randomly a French comic movement that I've never heard of, and just, like, drops that in there as though, of course you've heard of this. So there were some weird choices, I think, in, like, what to explain and what not to explain, and it just felt a little bit disjointed. But chapter 2 has a much stronger through line of his journey from, like, the end of high school into becoming a dental technician, and then eventually making his way to horror manga as an actual career. So I think that chapter 2 is stronger, and now I'm in chapter 3, which is much more an analysis of his work, and I'm curious to see where this is going to go, because I've just gotten, I think, a few pages into chapter 3. So yeah, every chapter is a little bit different. Each one is kind of focusing on something different, which I think is turning out to be like an interesting structure. Some of the chapters are working a little bit better for me than others, but I am having a great time learning about his process and his, like, you know, just his life, the things that he was interested in that led him down this path, and the various factors that came together to allow him to pursue this as a full-time career. And it's been just a really interesting time. Having a great time reading it. I think that's the last thing I've actually made forward progress in, and it's one of the first things I'm hoping to finish. So because I was originally planning for this video to go up at the beginning of the month, I had to move it around. I had to make some adjustments in my calendar, and I think I'm going to try and have this go up next Tuesday, which is ambitious of me because I am currently extremely busy with work. I've had a lot of days where I'm working really long hours at the moment because we've just gotten kind of swamped with project stories that need to be written, so I'm just spending a lot of time doing that. But I do want to try and finish like 4 more books in this video, which is ambitious because I have, what, today, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I have 6 days. We'll see if I manage it, but I think that I can at least finish The No Mask Murder and Uncanny. And then I would really like to try and finish Family by Laurie Frankel. I always get her name wrong in my head, at least briefly. My brain wants her name to be Laurel Frankie, and that is not what her name is. But I'd really like to finish that because I've been kind of putting it off for a while, and I just want to get past that hurdle. I know that I'm going to enjoy the rest of it. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star, and I think that's what's kind of holding me back. And then I'd also like to finish Finley Donovan is Killing It. Another one that I think is not going to be a 5-star, but I am really enjoying, and I just need to get over that hurdle. I am having a fun time with this. I managed to read a little bit more of it right before the election derailed me emotionally, and I'm having a good time. It's a fun mystery. It's one that's not taking itself too seriously, but it does have a really fun twist partway through that I'm excited to see how that's going to develop and where the whole thing is going to go. And, you know, it's a solid fun time. It just was not what I needed in the wake of these current events. I needed something that was a little bit more serious. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I am hopeful that I can finish a few of these. I'm going to try and read some more tonight. I'm just waiting on the video you should be seeing right before this on Saturday to export. Actually, it looks like it finished exporting while I've been talking, so that's wonderful. I've just finished my unhaul for this quarter, and I'm going to get that uploaded and get a thumbnail made and all that good stuff. and I'm going to try and read some tonight. I'm also helping my friend with her personal statement, and my partner is going to be over for the weekend to celebrate his birthday, because his birthday is like right after Thanksgiving, so he's going to be visiting family at that time. So we're going to be celebrating it this weekend. We're going to bake a cake. I think that's going to be fun, and I don't know what else we're going to do, but we'll find out. Somewhere in all of that, I'm going to try and find some time to finish some of this reading. Probably to no one's surprise, I have not actually managed to finish anything else off of my currently reading over the last several days. I think my previous update was sometime in the middle of last week, and I was really anticipating I would have a lot more reading time than I ended up having. I've been really busy with work lately, so I've been working a lot of extra hours, so I've just had a lot less reading time in the middle of the week than I typically do. I've been working extra hours for like the last 3-ish weeks, just because there's a lot going on at the moment, but I'm anticipating things should settle down as we move into December. It looks like a lot of people are going to be on vacation, so hopefully things will be a little bit quieter and I'll have a little more time in the evenings than I've been having. But on top of that, I also just spent this most recent weekend, the one that's currently ending, it's Sunday evening right now, just spent this weekend with my partner because we were celebrating his birthday early, because he's going to be visiting his family on his actual birthday. So it was a nice little opportunity to hang out with him and just have some good quality time. We went and did a couple of activities with my family, and it was a really nice weekend. So overall, really still happy with how things are going, and I'm not at all disappointed that I didn't get that reading time. I still feel like, even if the numbers don't suggest this video is a success, I feel like for me, it was a success. So at the start of this video, we had 10 books am I currently reading. There are now 9 books am I currently reading. But there was a jump down there because it was 10 to 6 to 9. I managed to get 4 books cleared out, and then I've added 3 more that I am currently reading right now. So I guess I'm just cursed to always have a chaotic currently reading. I'm really bad about setting things aside, and someday I would like to really get it down to just what I'm currently actively reading and get better about not doing that. But for now, I'm really happy that I managed to clear out some things that had been sitting on my currently reading list for quite a while. So I did manage to finish The Decagon House Murders, In the Shadow of the Ship, and The Writing Retreat, and I went ahead and DNF'd The Ex-Hex. So several of those have been on my currently reading for a very long time. I think The Decagon House Murders and The Writing Retreat were both from the start of this year, and The Ex-Hex was from the end of last year. So I've been kind of avoiding those for months, and it feels good to have them cleared out. And then the stuff that I did add, I'm really excited about, and I'm currently actively reading these. I should be finishing this in the next day or so if all goes to plan, which things often don't, but I am still having a great time reading The No Mask Murder, and I'm just having a good time kind of slowly making my way through both Henry V and Guards. So yeah, overall, the numbers don't look like a success, but I think it really is, at least for me and the way that I feel about what's on my currently reading. So I think that's pretty much it. I think we can wrap things up here. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.